Major General, retired, Professor Lekwa Soli Molo. You are the High Commissioner of the Republic of South Africa to Uganda. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Simon. Good morning.
You are also fresh off the diplomatic oven. You just presented your credentials not so long ago, so I'm sure you're one of those we would call new kids on the block.
Yes, a few days ago, indeed.
We'll call that point. We'll now come to the point where we've got to officially welcome you here. And you know how we, of course, do some bit of fresher bullying. We just ask you one question: how do you like Uganda so far? And please don't be kind to us.
Oh, the Uganda. It's for me. Uganda is like home. But the old Uganda that I know is different from this one. The difference is like day and night. Uganda is beautiful, Uganda is home, and Ugandans have been warm and, friendly, and I'm home.
Some would consider the same about South Africa, and for that reason they will always come to your High Commission to seek for that clearance to visit South Africa. Now you have moved it away from the usual trend that we knew, where we go line up at the High Commission, present our papers, wait for some days, and go back to get an acceptance or rejection. You've now instituted the visa facilitation service. Why so?
Simon, you would recall, even before I came here, I remember after I was told that I'm appointed, the president wishes me to deploy me in Uganda. There were reports between South Africa and Uganda where I think Parliament had taken the matter up because of the service that Ugandans were receiving at the High Commission. Some of those things were, there are a number of people that apply for visas and the queues become so long. The weather in Uganda is unpredictable. So there's been pressure, real social pressure in terms of the way we render the services of issuing visa. And it is because of all those issues taken into account that as South African High Commission, we considered the matter, and a visa facilitation service was acquired to come and facilitate to do the administrative part. And I must emphasize, it is the administrative part, because our staff, who are very few, thin on the ground, have to do the administration and the actual issue. And someone, the other important thing is that people needed to be treated homely. And that is why with the new service, people will be housed in offices, there will be a human touch to it, and they are the services will quite vary, where those that require a sort of an upmarket type of a service, they will get that for a fee.
For a fee, yes.
Exactly.
What about emergency, like if there is a senior government official that needs to be evacuated here for usually medical reasons and all that, and say it comes over the weekend, how will that also come into play? Or if you have a medical emergency of some sort and that requires a visa, an emergency visa, perhaps on the weekend or a public holiday, both yours and Uganda, how would that play out?
Well, let me start say by those official or government officials, or let me put it this way, those who will be carrying diplomatic passports, who are going to South Africa on official visit, or an official passport with a note verbal, will be they will be processed at the embassy. We will still process them at the embassy. Okay. But those that are sick, as you say, in an emergency is an emergency. In an emergency, they'll get hold of us at the embassy, and definitely where there's a medical emergency, we will do that. Like we have recently done when there was an emergency, the Prime Minister called me. We had to ensure that we save lives and look at the consideration of visa requirements, and we contacted South Africa, and the person was evacuated and landed in South Africa.
Well, we must give it to you that after our many complaints and misgivings about the process, now you are looking at how you can make the process better. And I am told that yesterday was the last day the High Commission received visa applications, and going forward, this will be at the visa facilitation service offices. Where are these offices going to be located?
The offices are at plot number 42 in Lugogo.
That's
Kampala bypass.
Lugogo bypass. That's quite very interesting. But let's get down to, yes, we've received a visa and gone to South Africa. to partake of whatever it is that we've gone down South Africa. There is always a growing worry, especially with press reports, that xenophobic attacks remain now subtle, but let's go back and try to talk about what could have created that kind of sentiment from people like yourselves in South Africa, who the rest of Africa held very delicately in a time when you needed that delicate handling. And now you are handling them with an iron fist.
Simon, I wouldn't agree that South Africa is handling people that are non-South Africans with an iron fist. Mm-hmm. And I guess when we talk of the xenophobic attacks in South Africa, we need to qualify those things, that these are deplorable acts, and let me say barbaric acts, perpetrated by criminals. We detest and abhor those actions. And once we have seen with the recent xenophobic attacks, we have seen South Africans across the spectrum of society, from faith-based organizations, from businesses, from NGOs, CBOs, from members of parliament themselves, cultural institutions. They rose up with one voice, that condemned those barbaric acts of xenophobia. And we have seen, especially this month that is our Africa month, that the slogan is one in South Africa. It's One Africa. What is the slogan? All Africa, one in Africa. So the slogan of inclusiveness in South Africa is the slogan of South Africa. And of course, we appreciate the role that many like you, like this country, Uganda, played in the liberation struggle of South Africa. Mm-hmm. That during those needed times, really, this was home far from home, and we were received very warmly. And indeed, in South Africa is a warm country, except where we have illegal immigrants. Now, and this is not...
that's what I was coming to, that yes, you may consider those to be barbaric acts, deplorable as they are perpetuated by criminals, but that doesn't make those of us who go to South Africa a communion of saints. There could be many of us who go to South Africa, not necessarily to engage in what law-abiding citizens or migrants always do. And to those, to what extent can you guarantee that there will be justice for those who perpetuate such barbaric acts and justice for those who go against the host country's laws?
You know, thanks for asking that question. You know, when you're in South Africa, one of the things that the government has made quite clear is that there will not be any secluded places like camps where refugees stay in these camps. South Africa is an inclusive society. The government propagates that everybody must integrate in society. But now that becomes a challenge, because not all go to South Africa with good intentions.
Good.
Exactly. And not all, and the South African borders, like in Uganda, the borders are very porous, you see. So though there are so many who go to South Africa to perpetrate this thing. To that end, there is an operation called Fiela. Fiela means to sweep. Mm-hmm. That is underway now, conducted by both the police and the army, which, number one, seeks to weed out illegal immigrants. And these illegal immigrants are not just Africans, It must be quite clear. I mean, if you look at the top crimes in South Africa, we have got the Czech Republic people, we have got people across the spectrum, you know, who commit those crimes. But good people with papers and everything, South Africa is home, and they are free. They have opportunities like everybody, and they are protected. The might of the law will protect them against those who perpetrate crime.
Major General Molo, let's look at Uganda-South Africa relations from an economic perspective. Of course, one of the major trading partners of this country, for the most part, because I mean, we don't produce much here except agricultural produce, is South African. So we see South African goods and services coming into the country, and there's a growing business community from South Africa. What could you say with regard to our trading relations? What's the balance of opportunity here? And of course, you would be the last person to ask whether, in your view, you think South Africa is benefiting more from this trade balance than Uganda is, or how are you trying to reach an equilibrium?
I think I must make a clarion call here that everybody must join hands with us, especially we who represent South Africa in Uganda, to ensure that whatever has been created, we must actually improve on that. Indeed, we have got a lot of South African business community in Uganda. Some of the flagship companies that South Africa has are in Uganda, based in Uganda, and they're doing business in Uganda. Uganda is a country that is beautiful. And I've always said, I don't understand why don't we get the marketing of this country where people, because, when they said the Pearl of Africa, I really understand.
What about the investment opportunities for, say, Ugandan entrepreneurs in South Africa? Is there something that they can, harness if they came down to South Africa?
Look, when I came here, the president was quite clear that you go to Uganda, and one of the things that we have to focus and strengthen is the economic relations between the two countries and ensure that there are opportunities both ways. President says have opportunities for Ugandans in South Africa, the Ugandan commodities that are destined for South Africa, and vice versa, the South African commodities and business people in Uganda. And it is upon that we thought it prudent that we must create the South African Chamber of Commerce. We have been lobbying with businesses around to say we need a family of all those businesses of South Africa that are in Uganda. Number one, to say you are in Uganda, yes, we agree that there are a number of corporate social responsibilities that you do, but your footprint here, long after you have left, must remain. What is it that you are doing with the government to ensure that you make a difference in the people's lives? That's what we do at the social level. However, what opportunities do those businesses and challenges, of new entrants into the Ugandan market, what are those things? What are those issues that affect you with the government? You see? Because if you look at some of these businesses, some of them are major employers, they contribute to the revenue of this state, and obviously I think there can be preferential tariffs somewhere, but those are some of the things that we'll look at. But also, what are those chambers of South Africa, back home in South Africa, that we need to link with chambers here?
So that there is a synergy that operates within the two countries.
Exactly.
Equal opportunities.
Exactly.
Or at least preferential treatment.
Exactly.
Or opportunities for members down there.
Exactly.
But moving away from that, you are a high commissioner in Uganda. Uganda is in the epicenter of a region that oftentimes has its own share of political upheavals. And I'm sure you're aware of the Burundi situation. And of course, we also are aware and we commend the role played by South Africa in the pacification of Burundi back in the early 2000s, especially with this peace process that was led by your late former president, Madiba. At the moment, we see a bit of the ugly head of instability rearing its head in Burundi. You happen to be High Commissioner here. Is that something within your radar? Never mind the fact that I'm sure you could possibly have a counterpart in Bujumbura, but is it something that you are a bit concerned about and working towards, especially with the political establishment here, which is also with the keen interest in having Burundi a stable state?
A prosperous Africa can only happen in a secure and peaceful Africa. And therefore, instability on this continent affects all concerned Africans. So I'm not indifferent to what is happening in Burundi while I was here. And I've, on a number of occasions, called my colleague, the High Commissioner in Burundi, the ambassador in Burundi, to ask him what the situation is. I know, each time we have upheavals like this, it's women and children that suffer. The number of refugees suffer. Countries in the neighborhood have to ensure that, with little resources they have to accommodate those people. So that cannot be condoned. Really, it affects all of us. Being in Uganda, we know of the role that Uganda plays in the East African community. And therefore, I'm quite aware that our president, President Jacob Zuma, has been being in touch with his counterpart, His Excellency President Museveni, to try and find out what the lasting solution. And I'm saying this thing because with the last meeting that was held in Tanzania, His Excellency President Zuma had sent Deputy President Ramaphosa to attend on his behalf the meeting to ensure that they resolve the challenges in Burundi. And therefore, it cannot be condoned. We can only work together and join our hands with those that are ensuring that there is peace in Burundi. It's regrettable that after so many years of stability, where it was a successful story. I personally had worked with Burundians in capacity building. I had an office in Kigali that serviced Burundi. I know the commitment of those Burundians. It is so sad when one of those successful stories of transition can regress in the manner that it does. And we must do something to make sure that it doesn't happen like that.
Without a doubt. Now, Your Excellency Moro, which name I am meant to understand means fire, as we conclude this program, wherever a fire passes, it leaves a trail in its wake, perhaps devastation, perhaps some bit of, lifeline that would never have been. So when you're done with your tour of duty, and it's sad that we're talking about when you're done with your tour of duty, when you're only a couple of days, away from presenting your credentials. But I mean, the moment you have you have an entrance, we begin to think of an exit. What are some of those things you would want us to hold on as a lasting legacy of your tenure as High Commissioner here, beyond what you've just told us that your mandate is to create lasting economic relations between Uganda and South Africa? But what else?
And I've spoken, I hinted towards that one of the lasting legacies that I would love to leave here is the creation of a vibrant organization of business people who not only are seen to be making profits here, but who partner with government to make a difference in the lives of the ordinary Ugandans.
Now, clearly, I can see that diplomacy has changed from political relations to economic relations.
But also, I must say, also see a footprint of Uganda in South Africa. And when I go back home and see the Uganda in South Africa doing business there, flourishing, I'll say, yes, indeed. We came and we have left that legacy.
And of course, that's a legacy that we will be monitoring very closely and keeping our tabs on, and of course, regularly calling on you to come and give us a status update on how far you've gone with that legacy. We must thank you for taking time off your very busy schedule to be with us this early morning to discuss this and other issues, and we hope that next time the call comes through, we'll be more than glad to receive you in the same way.
Thank you, Simon, and thank you to the viewers.
When we return, it will be Simon Says. Stay with us. Just to reiterate the words of His Excellency, retired Major General Lekwa Solimolo, after the hue and cry that came in, especially with regard to how we were being treated with the South African High Commission process of getting visas to South Africa, this was a consideration that was high on their agenda, given how much they revere relations between the two countries and by extension the rest of Africa and the world in which they operate. And so the visa facilitation services is one of those they believe will be a magic bullet in ameliorating these concerns that we did raise. For a moment, of course, it's always easy to castigate, but I think in the same breath, with the same energy, we need to laud them for at least listening to the cry in hue and putting in place what they consider to be a lasting solution. Now the call is simple. Let's go out there and use this facility to the best that we can. But should we, I want to believe the doors are still open, should we realize that there could be a few, gaping holes in the way the facility operates, that I'm sure should also be a consideration that they are more than willing to listen to, if for nothing else, to improve the services and, of course, improve relations between Uganda and South Africa. And, of course, as he concluded, he, as the High Commissioner, believes that strong economic ties can only be a prerequisite for the development of both countries and, by extension, the development of the entire continent of Africa. And so it's high time business people or business communities or entrepreneurs on either side take to look at the direction of where this arrangement of a chamber of commerce, a chamber of entrepreneurs will be leading them, so that we can harness equal opportunities, perhaps even preferential opportunities when it comes to the way we deal with each other for whatever goods or services we produce or we intend to exchange across these two brotherly countries. Have a wonderful day, a productive day, and of course, we know that the collective sum of your productivity is what will spur this country to the greater heights we all wish it to be. Have a good morning.